whatever milestones that Black people make against hate, it ends up benefiting all the other people of color. I can't see what his end game is. The Republican Party is the party of racism, is the party of white supremacy, is the party of hate. This is wrong, and it needs to stop.
Everybody wants to go back and drag that piece of history up, but they don't want to go back and deal with what their ancestors did to the indigenous people and to Black people in this country. You got to go. And you got billionaires talking about going to space, and Jeff Bezos, go. Never come back. I hope you get lost. This man has lost his mind.
Come on, girlfriend. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also, I co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers that is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care, and part of that collaboration last year, part of a team that reached out directly or indirectly to over 100,000 fathers around the world. And as always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And we're broadcasting live on October 1st. Wow, where did September go? Just like poof. Like everyone I talk to, they go like, where did September go? Like bam, bam, bam. So like things are rushing along, but we're never too rushed to have State of Things with Aisha and Jill and Lala. So let's bring up the real stars. I'm just the fodder. Let's bring them all up. Let's bring them all up. Here we go. Greetings, ladies. How art thou?
Good, good.
Jill, you're muted. You're muted, Jill. Let's see if Jill can take herself. Ah, there we go. Jill's off mute.
Yes.
What's going on, ladies? How we doing?
Ooh, I'm doing okay, I think, you know. I've started a new diet. It's just a kind of, for my Hashimoto's, I've just been trying something new and doing more nurturing foods and really more meditation. And I've just created like a checklist. So my day now is just going to be do this at 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever, because I kind of had to do that. But taking the time for it was really had a cathartic effect on me. Just planning how I was going to do this was good. You know, self-care.
Excellent. What's going on in the world of Aisha K. Staggers?
Well, I took this week off. I had this whole week off for vacation. Nice. It was my birthday present to myself.
Yes, happy belated.
Thank you. And so
was it your birthday?
My birthday was last Friday.
Oh my God, I totally brain fart. Oh, it's because I went offline.
You did what?
I'm offline.
Yeah.
I took a moment. Sorry.
Are you okay?
Happy birthday. I thought
Jill,
yes.
No, Aisha, how did you celebrate your birthday?
Yes.
Well, I did like what Jill said. I took myself off social media for a bit. I caught up on my DVR. I did mindless things like just playing games on my phone. I puppy sat for my sister 2 days. She's got the sweetest little cockapoo, just the cutest little puppy. And I sat and I was trying to basically get my energy and stuff together. And then toward the end of the week, I had to deal with like some medical stuff. So I'm having another surgery this year.
What?
Looks like next month.
Oh, wow.
Because I had some complications with prior to this, stomach issues. And so they figured out what it was. And so now just having to do the whole fixing thing. I have like a kink in my small intestine that causes a lot of pain when I eat. So,
ouch.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to that part being done over. And guess what? It needs more time to myself.
Okay. Lala, you in Florida.
Yes.
Yeah, talk to you.
Where she literally was almost a mermaid.
Absolutely.
Look at all them. See, you better take that stuff down. You called that into play.
Exactly. It was. Now I am on the other side of where the eye hit, but we were in the direct alignment with the wind and the rain, and I am used to tornadoes in Kentucky. I've lived through those, but this truly was frightening. These winds were a nightmare, and they howled all night long, but we're safe, sound, dry, and I'm just seeing what I can do for those that definitely need help, because when I say they have nothing, they have nothing. This is a true leveler of people.
What's interesting is that you can't go into a basement with a hurricane, obviously, because of the flooding. So how far away would people have had to evacuate? Because this thing really went across the entire span of Florida, it looks like. It just didn't, you know.
Well, the way that it hit, there were some people who were able to go to Miami in this case and be in safer spots. For us, we would have had to either go up to Jacksonville or go over to the Pensacola side, because they did not have it because of the way that it kind of curved over. Yeah. But there were spots that, you know, they told you that you could go out to, but thank goodness we were not evacuated.
Right.
But there were a lot of trees that were down, a lot of people's shingles in other people's yards. And I literally, no joke, was looking out the window and saw someone's bush get ripped completely out of the front of their yard.
Come on.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, did that just happen? Yeah. 1 second it was there, and the minute it was gone.
My brother sent me pictures of all the tile by the swimming pool it was all in the swimming pool. So all the tile around it came from the walkway in, and he was showing me like the 6 foot end, and all of it was stacked to the very tip top. So that meant that much of it filled up an entire swimming pool.
Yes.
Ouch.
Yes.
The cleanup's going to be nasty. Like they were showing this one small town, and basically nothing. They went through the whole town, like the what would be the downtown area, the residential part, nothing, just completely leveled. And you realize it's going to take a while to clean that up, and people are going to be very destitute for a while. Like I saw parts of Mississippi after Katrina, and things were nasty there, and they got hit as bad as New Orleans. And so I can only imagine what this looks like.
And you know, all that, with everything being ripped up like that, it's not just the devastation of water. Water is extremely devastating and damaging, but it also dredges up a lot of nastiness. Like, you know, now your breathing quality is different, and you know, people are going to be affected in more than just losing property.
Yeah. Asthma is going to be really bad because the mold and all of that. Once the weather, they said it's like getting hot, like right after.
Yeah.
And so all the
mold impacts
your
adrenals.
Air. Yes.
Oh,
it impacts everything in your body. It's like it's so important to stay on top of that.
And that's one of the reasons we have a whole segment in real estate about mold. Like, I have to give people disclosures about that and everything. I mean, it's pretty serious.
Yeah.
Well, before we go further, we got families already chiming in. So, Almighty Baby. Oh, let me put it back up here. Come on. Hello, everyone. It's Jen. Hope all is well. Tamara from Texas is in the house.
Oh, nice.
Yes, she said, and she's also, I'm good. I'm looking forward to tonight's segment. Yes. Tila, listening while I'm cooking, but happy to see everyone and good to hear you're safe. I've responded saying, what's she cooking? Is she serving up?
Sounds good.
So
Somalia.
Yeah, nice. I saw that. Someone's here from greetings from Somalia. All right.
Oh my gosh, we should
on Twitch.
Look at this. Black Beauty's in the house. Hey, y'all.
Hi.
So we is all here.
I mean, that being, you know, with climate change, Somalia is having some really wild stuff happening.
So in India,
you know, we're going to have to really,
or Pakistan. There was
all of the above are experienced, but Somalia is going through another serious drought, and we need to like do a whole thing on this that's happening with the climate change. It's really, it's apparent. It's very clear.
And all these people who would say, no, it doesn't exist. Yeah, right. Go to Florida.
Right. I know. What's left of Florida.
Yeah.
And then Tila says on the menu, do it creamy chicken and potato soup.
Oh, that's a lot of great potassium in there. That potassium sounds fabulous.
There you go. There you go. Well,
I mean, let's not forget, Puerto Rico got hammered a few years back, and they just had sort of a precursor to what this was going to be. But people were being told, you know.
And she forgot to add
garlic bread.
Yeah. Nice. I'm all for the bread.
Ooh, I know.
Okay. My weakness.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, since we were talking about Hurricane Ian, I think it leads nicely into our first conversation piece. Mr. DeSantis has dialed down his rhetoric as the president of the United States lines up Florida for hurricane aid. What a surprise.
Well, here's the thing. Let's look at the history. Anytime that something like this has happened, because this is not new to Florida, the current governor's perception by the people would make or break them. Now, he knows he wants to move further along in the political field. He has that aspiration of being the president. So he knows that he needs to dial it back. And I think he's taking a little bit from the history that he knows that's happening. Now, I'm not going to say that I don't know if the man cares or not. I'm going to be cool about that part. But I think that this is all just a part of politics. He has to show that he cares. But many of the people that I know from that side have all said that he's voted against everything. He's against everything that they say. But now, of course, when they need it, he must show that he has to try to see to get them help. So is this part of the puppet show? I believe everything is a part of the puppet show. But that man does not fool me.
Yeah, but there's precedent for it, too. I mean, Chris Christie did the exact same thing with Barack Obama in 2012 after Hurricane Sandy. And if you recall, he also was about to engage thinking about becoming president at some point and did run a few years later. And so DeSantis, remember too, he also is in an election. The election is next month.
Yes.
And so that's definitely the first thing on his mind. And you know, the next thing you're gonna see is how are people going to vote? Because he's got to be extremely concerned that a lot of his voters are not going to be able to access the polls and everything. So of course he's taking as much assistance as he can get. He's going to close his mouth, but you best believe that once he decides to run for president, he's going to have a lot to say about Joe Biden, and he'll probably even lie about how the Biden administration handled this hurricane.
Well, it's already started, because you know how Facebook always has the groups that allow you to mark yourself safe. And so it's a group where you can tell people that you're safe. There is nothing but pure political rhetoric in there. There are the Trumpsters who are in there, who are flying, who are standing out in the storm with the flags talking about, F Biden, and you even in a crisis, you have the kooks that are always going to be out there doing their thing and flying their freak flag, as you say. But that is one of the most sickening political groups that I have ever seen, when all you're trying to do is just see if your loved ones are safe. They've turned it into just a cesspool of garbage.
But a lot of them don't live there, and maybe some do, actually. You're right. But with DeSantis, a hard head makes a soft behind. And one thing I do know, it's kind of funny to watch him stand there, You know, I really realized he has a very limited vocabulary.
Yes.
I think that's why people like him. The same with like Herschel Walker, who said he wasn't that smart. I think they managed down expectations, you know, so when you do that, people don't expect anything. But DeSantis is not, he has no bedside manner. He probably has no bed manner at all anyway, either. God bless his wife.
Pastor Jill.
There's something very cold about him. And I looked him up and he has an Aquarius moon. Honey, this country has never had an Aquarian moon, anything. That it's so against what, you know, it ain't going to happen. He tries very hard to be that guy like Trump. And it's not going to work because he's got a freak side to him. All Aquarian moon men kind of, there's something freaky in there. And if they're looking for stuff on him, dig deep. Culturally, yeah, dig deep. There's some stuff. But that being said, I think that, you know, we have to, you know, I tuned in when he was plugging Elon Musk's Starlink thing, which I thought was really strange, you know, and then we got all of these things that were, I'm like wondering, are we paying Elon Musk for this stuff? Because, you know, they like to say Elon is always donating, but, you know, first of all, I don't know how Elon could have turned on the Starlink in Iran when now all of a sudden this dude just told us that we need those discs. See, he said you need to have this flat thing, right? In order to be able to connect your phone in the area to Starlink. So when we get to the topic about Iran, which I don't know if we do have a topic about Iran, but with what was going on in Iran, which is the severity of a very horrible thing, yeah, Elon Musk was supposedly having tuned everybody into Starlink, which clearly is a lie. And that's, you know, I'm just tired of all of the lies, even in the middle of disasters, these rich men, you know, bending over and licking their own behinds. Yep. And they literally are doing it. DeSantis looks humbled, but give him a week. He'll be cussing out Joe Biden next week, maybe in a couple of days.
I'm going to say, I don't give him a week.
Yeah. So I'm not that, you know, I think that Florida has had a reckoning coming for a long time. They ignored it. They voted him in. And now they got to see if the man that they bet their lives on can deliver. It wasn't even, remember how he acted when the building collapsed in his thing? He could barely be to go and stand there to see how many people were buried alive in that building. Let me tell you something. Is it worth us giving them the money? Because why are we rebuilding Florida when it looks pretty damned and doomed? They need to come all the way inland. There's no reason to have beach property anymore. We have things showing that it's sinking. It's going to be gone soon. Why build it back up? It's a fool's errand. And I don't think that our monies should go to it. I think they should get their necessities and the whole area should be condemned.
You know, I tried to watch some of the press conferences that he did. I can't stand the sound of that man's voice. He sounds like he eats potato salad with bologna in it and white milk.
Totally.
It's just the most gross sounding thing, and it's like all this like backed up phlegm in his mouth, and
it's terrible.
And it's like and so when he has that sound of his voice and uses that limited vocabulary that Jill mentioned, you know, it's only attractive to a certain population of people.
There you go.
And and that's all he's talking to right now. Make no mistake, all the things that he's saying right now are wink, wink. You know, I'm just saying this because we want the money.
Exactly.
But it's like he doesn't have any.
He's back home yelling. You're right. He is back home kicking up his heels, saying, "Wow, we just got a payday." Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if they all went on Zoom with Brett Favre, however the you say his name. I can't ever figure out what his damn name.
For FEMA, the people have to apply directly to FEMA.
Yes,
he'll figure out a way to steal.
It doesn't go through the government. You have to apply directly.
Either way, but remember, PPP. This little piece of will figure it out. He will figure out something. As soon as he hits a roadblock on something, that's when the cussing is going to start with Biden and the administration. And, you know, he always bites the hand that feeds him. So I'm kind of like, I think they need to have a real, you know, come to Jesus moment about does it make sense to build on land like just willy-nilly, unless you're looking at a property that's the equivalent of how they had to deal with rebuilding the Arab Emirates, because they're sinking constantly. So there's some kind of a different type of build that you have to do. And if they do go in and decide this, I don't think DeSantis is the one with the vision to pull that off. Yeah, putting up regular old stick houses again that'll get swept away in another catastrophic hurricane that will probably show up next year, or maybe we're not even at the hurricane season has just begun, right?
Yeah, but he doesn't believe in climate change, so of course he's not going to.
He gonna believe in something, Aisha. He gonna believe.
No, but he doesn't believe in climate change, so he doesn't believe that the things are going to sink.
He gonna believe.
The land's going to sink. He doesn't believe in it, and guess what? His followers don't, who live there. So,
but a lot of them sat on those boats and decided to sit and ride it out because they don't believe in authority. They don't believe what anybody says. They don't believe in a weatherman. They don't even believe in that. What was that little game we used to? They probably believe in that little 8-ball thing more than they believe.
The magic 8-ball.
Yeah, the magic 8-ball. Than they do anything that the U.S. government says.
Well, they're already out. They're already out with the shirt.
That's why they were sitting there and upset because, oh my God, the Coast Guard can't come. I've got water all the way up to my neck. The only people that I feel sorry for were people who couldn't leave because of their finances and things like that, and animals, of course, and children who were stuck with their dumb parents. You know, I just don't get
it. Did you?
Yes.
Did you see Laura Trump?
Especially at Myrtle Beach.
No, Laura Trump, honey, she had her kid in the rain. She's kind of up. She's like mommy dearest. That was weird.
Yeah, on her, because
oh my God,
that's child abuse. Really,
that poor kid.
A tree could have fallen on him.
Yes.
What was so weird is she humiliates that kid. You could see the way the kid interacted with his mom. And she was laughing. She makes fun of that child and she goads that kid. She's a bully, and I really feel so bad for her child. I don't feel for them. But I felt that kid's pain, and he's going to hate that kid or whatever. I don't know. She totally dehumanized her child.
But you know what? But isn't it like a cyclical thing with them? Isn't this how Donald Trump treated
oh God, no, wait, he was asking for money in the middle of the storm.
Yeah, that too was off. And you know, I feel like you, Joe. I feel sorry for the animals, for the people, the kids, the people who couldn't move because of money. But on the other hand, then you see these people who are like, I'm just not moving because I don't want to go. And you get so angry, especially when you live in some of these coastal blue states, because you know the majority of the money that goes to FEMA comes from your state.
Honey,
and you don't take back as much. But these people, they don't put very much into it, but get this sense of obligation, like the government is supposed to take care of them regardless.
Oh no, they don't want us. Remember, that's socialism to even have a Coast Guard. Go hire your own, like the Kardashians, who when their houses are on fire, they hire their own fire department to come and take it out. Why don't Republicans get that? Stop using the services that you complain so much about. I mean, my God.
You vote to cut.
You want to cut them all out. So the Coast Guard and all of that, but you're sitting up there drowning in your freaking homes because you decided to stay because it's really a government plot. Is HARP was making it rain, right? HARP, that old program. I mean, really, the lunacy in this country is out of order, and there has to be kind of a leveling ground here. That somebody needs to have that talk with them, like, listen, how many of you decided to stay here? I mean, like, for real, like, what is wrong with you? You know, there was one woman whose husband was paralyzed. I heard about that. Why didn't somebody go and try to help them? You know, see, the nicest thing would have been to be a good person before this broke out. Of course, you have no choice but to do it now because it's shaken you to your core. But what happened to the things you do before?
Yeah.
You're so busy trying to prove that the government has like created a program with the rainstorms and the clouds. And there were people saying stuff like that. Unreal.
We saw that in the group. You saw that all in the groups.
And all I know is there's some women and men out there in the Coast Guard or wherever doing these serious rescue missions. And it wasn't like the levee broke that they didn't have a chance to be warned, like in Katrina. These people had been getting like notification. Even DeSantis was on TV all the time. Leave if you can. He wasn't that pushy about it, but he was saying leave. But, you know, because he always acts like he doesn't trust authority all the way. You know what I mean? Wink, wink, as Aisha said. He did that with COVID, and he did it with the storm. Wink, wink. Yeah, the storm's coming. You know the storm.
Yeah, and it's not like this, like you said, it's not like the storm just popped up. Remember, it hit Dominican Republic and Haiti and Puerto Rico first. And we saw this devastation. And that's why Joe Biden sent FEMA early in the week. And you would think that it's like, look, if the federal government is sending this early, you know, not an afterthought like they did with Katrina and some of the other things, then, you know, that's something you got to take seriously. But of course, people are so poisoned by the state government in Florida, the governor to the House, the state House and the state Senate, because they're all Republican owned, controlled. And it's not just that they're Republican controlled, they're controlled by the crazy wing of the Republican Party. And so it's like,
which is the whole party
the
now. There's no.
Things.
Do you think there is a wing anymore? I think the whole damn party is. I don't understand why you would even call yourself a Republican again when you're outnumbered by the crazy.
Right.
I mean that's just stupid. If anybody who subscribes to being a Republican, even old Cheney, whatever, girl, your time is over. It's done.
Liz Cheney said she's probably leaving.
Girl, ain't nobody checking for Liz. That authority and all that she thought she had and influence, it's over.
I just want to jump in a bit because there's been a whale of comments, and I don't like interrupting when you are on flying, but I have to come in and interrupt the flight for a moment. Flight attendant Dr. Vibe here. So just checking in on the plane here. So Blue Rain says, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Also, Black Beauty says, God bless Dr. Vibe, everyone. Thank all of us. We're here in my Midwestern state. Prayers for all of those affected by the hurricane and aftermath. Haven't seen for a bit. Daquita Kita. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. Cinnamon says, yes, we good. We got tons of rain and wind. Cinnamon says, yes, no reason to have beach houses in Florida. No. I think she's talking about Mr. DeSantis here. His voice looks not masculine enough to hear my ears.
No.
Black Beauty says, I totally agree regarding continued buildup of those areas or Florida. And then Tila, the comments are if this is it's already going to be a long conversation night. There was news reports that people actually wanted to quote ride this out.
I know,
no pun intended, on their boats during a hurricane. That mindset, I can't
either. And you know what's so interesting is, remember a little bit before the gas prices started going up, and then Joe Biden made a thing like, hey, are we going to price gouge and all this stuff, which therefore led to this whole other conversation, which is, should we price gouge or not price gouge? So, you know, DeSantis should have been leveling out like how to set it up where people don't start hoarding things, you know, those are the things that governors pretty much start to prepare people for. He did none of that.
Nope.
And that's what's really crazy, because there were people who died in their cars that they found in Fort Myers, which means these people decided to get up out of the house and go to their cars.
Yes.
But it was too late. The surge came and just them all up and down. So, you know, the whole reality is, this was not something that everybody was saying, this is going to be bad. But DeSantis treated it like I was watching an episode of Family Affair with Buffy and Jody asking Mr. Bill and Uncle Mr. French if they thought that the tidal wave was going to take over New York. It wasn't. This was real. There was actual factual science behind it.
Science? What's that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you know, too, they are also a group of people who are more prone to believing old wives' tales and superstitions and things. Because you know, the thing about getting in your car during a storm is like something that is old Southern white. My grandfather, who died when I was 13, every time it rained, he used to run to his car. Thunder, lightning, he used to run to his car and sit in the car. Because at one point in time, like in the 50s and 60s, they used to say your car was one of the safest places to be in a storm.
Because of the rubber tires.
Right. And so people, you know, rather than believing science, are quick to believe these old wives' tales that get passed down and passed down and passed down with no scientific basis. It's like, come on, we're not just taking a shot in the dark and guessing here. We've actually been to the moon at this point in time. You know, trust science.
They've never thought about when we watched what happened during the tsunami in Indonesia. You know, they never saw like
Fox didn't cover it
yeah, that's true. Watching what happened in Japan, you know, with the flooding after Fukushima, like the flooding is like, oh wow, you're right. Fox probably didn't cover it.
No.
So just to catch up here, Jen is saying Tila heard that also and took their pets out of their boats and had to be rescued. Tila saying, "Oh mighty baby, right." They would take their innocent pets to their demise. So weird.
Right.
And then T-Lai saying there were cars floating down the neighborhoods during this thing, along with boats. Shake my head.
Yeah. And you know, it's really sad because you think that adults would make decisions that affect their families in ways that would increase their likelihood of survival.
Yeah.
But these people are making decisions based on nothing, political rhetoric, QAnon theories, and just ridiculousness, and saying, oh, well, yeah, I'm going to ride this thing out. You're not God. What makes you think that you will actually survive that? You have, in these instances, you have to act like you will get hit the worst and you might not make it. So you have to do everything that you can, given your financial situation. But me seeing people walk outside, it's like, come on.
Well, common sense is a novelty. Let's face it. You know,
sense is not common. Sense is not common. Cinema says the fact that Tom Brady lives here, the nation knows where's Tampa.
I know. Did Giselle leave him? Because I heard she was leaving.
Put it this way. Donald Trump left Florida. Because remember, he went back last week to Mar-a-Lago. He left.
What did he? I thought he was sitting and writing it out.
No, he left.
Where's
he? Where's the one in Jersey? Because you know he can't go to New York, so he's at Jersey.
Cinema says I was almost expected the damage was going to be here.
Where is Cinema? Where is she?
Yeah, where do you live, Cinema? You got to tell us. Put in the comments. So just doing a reset here. State of Things with Aisha Jill broadcasting
in Tampa,
live.
I believe. Maybe
in
Tampa because the eye was supposed to be in. It was supposed to hit Largo, and then it hit Sarasota.
Yeah,
and it moves. You know.
Yeah, and remember that these kinds of storms, move in ways that can be unpredictable because that depends on what's in their path.
Yes.
So if they're going in a place where there's like a lot of buildings and things like that, it can move the path of the storm.
Did anybody see
down or make it fast?
Did any of you see the guys in the weather plane that was during the whole hurricane? You probably didn't, Lala. This was crazy. So they were in this plane. I thought it was going to come down.
It was bouncing all over the place.
They were like, blood had drained from their faces because it was intense. It's how they get They're able to determine certain things about the wind speeds, about certain things. I was like, maybe y'all need to send up drones next time, or do something different. Have another backup for that's their job.
Cinema says that she lives in Tampa.
Yes, well, it was supposed to really nail Tampa, but thankfully it didn't.
All right. Well, we will keep on monitoring what happens next, because it's going to take a long rebuild.
Oh yeah.
And also we'll see how long it takes Mr. DeSantis to reverse his tides. Sorry for the pun in regard to the hurricane, but let's see how long.
By Monday he'll be back to normal.
By Monday? All right. We're betting by Monday. Okay. All right. Well, let's go to our next conversation piece. The Biden administration scales back student debt relief for millions amid legal concerns. Why?
Well, okay, so the loan that they scaled back the relief on is called the Federal Family Education Loan Program. Either FEL or FELP. When I had it back in the day, it was called FELP. And those, if you've ever had one of those loans, they're very predatory, like, because they're individual banks that loan money to people, but the loans are guaranteed by the federal government and Department of Education. So it's not like when you go to the Department of Education, which has what's called a direct loan. That direct loans is theirs. And I think they actually changed the name from direct loans to something else. But how the banks handled those student loans, they sold them, they did all kinds of things. But those loans ended in 2010, and so when I was reading about this, one of the reasons that they wanted to kind of scale back on those was so that older people with older loans could get assistance. Because if you looked at how the program was structured, and I did go to look just for my daughter and actually for myself, because I still have student loans I'm still paying. And I didn't kind of qualify for that because of the age of my loans. My daughter would have if she were a graduate now. So I think there are legal concerns, because really this is something that Congress has to do. He's doing it by executive order. That's the main concern. But the people, also too, I'll say this: it's not really millions of people that are affected. They have the number at 800,000.
But I don't understand what they're scaling back. I don't understand what you're saying.
They're taking that one particular loan program out of the qualification. The Federal Family Education Loan Program. They're pulling that out of the category of loans that are eligible for forgiveness.
So why are they saying they're doing that?
Well, one of the reasons is because they were backed by the federal government, but they were taken out through individual banks. Individual banks provided those loans. So that's one of the
Joe ain't gonna the banks down. That is something that is never going to happen, because there are people during the whole pandemic, if you had a mortgage, I know some people who had mortgages and their mortgages just got sold in the middle for no reason, not because they missed a payment or anything, to third parties that were not FDIC protected.
Yes.
And then those people were ineligible to collect money during the pandemic.
That's right.
They didn't have any way.
Fact. A lot of people don't know that.
Right.
It was horrible, and it was going down. It's so awful. They got their sold, and you would just be getting a letter in the mail and saying, "I'm sorry, Chase is no longer your bank.
Yep.
We sold it to so and so and so and so." And you're like, "Who is that?"
Oh yeah,
and
my student loans have been sold 18 times.
Cross Country Bank, which is back. Cross Country never died, I don't think.
No, my student loans have been sold 18 times.
Yeah. So the biggest problem is that there's obviously a lobby group in DC that's fighting that, and we got to put people in place that are going to fight for that, because even Liz, whatever knucklehead who's always says she's so good at money, and she tried to run for president, Liz Warren, you know, talk about a useless who's done absolutely nothing but talk about what she thought needed to be done. She didn't know how to get it done.
Right.
And that's what's so annoying about her to me.
But here's the
because
problem.
That's the bank. She never stepped up and said, we got to get the predator loans. You know how many people in your constituency want that? Mm-hmm. Everybody's done a payday loan or a this or a that or a predator. But when you come home and you look and you see how nefarious it was, how they redline you, they do it on purpose. The banks sit and go, black people, black area, we're going to sell all of these little mortgages right here to this human being. They'll never be able to do it over in that side of town. That's how it goes. And I wouldn't be surprised if they'd done it with your actual loans as well. That's the part of the Biden I don't like.
Well, here's the thing. The approach and the requests to do something about student loans were all screwed up to begin with. Mm-hmm. Okay, because how this should have happened is that they should have rolled it out in parts, starting with the oldest loans first. Because when it comes down to it, people who have loans that are 30 years or older, those should have been forgiven first. You're talking about people who are middle-aged, have kids in college, and are also starting to care for their aging parents mm-hmm. now. So mm-hmm. it is a serious God, I'm trying to find the word.
It's serious, but the reason
serious, but what I was saying was that how they did it was wrong to begin with.
But so, I don't know if it was wrong. There was so much pushback, and there's no sympathy from people like, you know, who didn't go to college, who got out of jobs for even a secretary job because mm-hmm. of everybody who's got a goddamn degree. So you're not going to follow on the sympathy.
But that really isn't. I don't think that has. I think
no, it has to do with why there's such pushback and really anger about everybody getting their loans forgiven. Because if they forgive loans, I think they should forgive everybody's loans.
Well, the reason for that, though,
I'm sorry, I forgive mine.
Yeah. But, I mean, the reason for that you have to remember is that baby boomers lived longer and stayed in positions of executive positions, managerial positions,
it's not fair.
A lot longer. And so people who were trying
because
to
they
get
wanted
into those roles could not. They couldn't even get the regular job.
I don't know.
And I'm just saying this from experience of having traveled that path. And so, you know, where people are, particularly Gen X people are, who still have these loans. And mind you, I don't think keep in mind, it's not people who have not been paying the loans that I am really not concerned about. It's people who have been paying them. Because to be honest, the way that they have, even if they just restructured the payment part of it.
But Aisha, you're talking about something that, how could it be restructured when Gen X is one of the main, and millennials, older millennials, took their straight to Wall Street and shoved the rest of y'all under the bus. They could have changed it,
but
if they knew the problem. But I'm saying they don't care about that. Your own generation did not care. They are so rich. It's not even funny. Even the handful.
Anyone else you want to add?
I'm kind of confused because the majority of people that I know that are Gen X are paying astronomical amounts of money for loans.
I'm not talking about the people that can't pay their bills. I'm talking about the successful people that are running corporations.
But that's not stealing.
It doesn't matter. They've set the thing. I mean, these go and steal from a whole community with startups and this and that and this and that. All the schemes, all of the little dirty deeds. They've been robbing us blind. Yeah, boomers have worked their off. Gen X, millennials came along and said, how can we do it faster and how can we get more quicker? Oh, I know. Let's start a fake program and let's steal the away from people. And hey, let's create banks and do this with the money and do this and do that. It wasn't really the boomers. I mean, seriously, they're very, very, very like this. It's Gen X and Gen Z came in with those bright ideas. And that's why they might get skipped over for having people in politics. And here's the thing. They didn't want to serve anybody. As I saw the things about Gen X may never have a president. No, it was too beneath you. You all were educated. Y'all got your degree.
Not true. That's not true. I have to disagree with that. That's not true. Here's the thing. Anytime I went to go apply for a job, mid-level to executive level, there's always someone else in that position who's like had it for 40 years and not planning on leaving till they die. So you can't really move up and get the kind of income that would sustain that. When you get out of school 6 months later, they send you a bill.
What
the bill doesn't
company hires anybody that long? There's no, that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
Are you serious? Yes, it does.
I am serious.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes,
and one of my companies, there were a few but they wouldn't have been considered boomers. They were actually silent generation, a little bit older. But no, let's try having your degree. But hey, everybody is a revolving door after that. 2 years, you go, you move up, you do that. But you're acting like everybody has to feel bad. Your group of people in your own generation.
I'm just saying you have to look at it realistically because
Zuckerberg has enough money to pay people proper things. Everybody just
he's also a millennial, okay? But the thing of it is that the money, 6 months after you get out of school, first of all, it takes time to get a job. The job search process can take months, but that first bill comes due. And let me tell you, for the majority of people, it is no less than $1,200, no less than that. Some people end up paying more. And then you have people who can't afford that. So what do? They get stuck in that deferment cycle.
In what? Paying your bills?
No, and paying back the student loans.
Let me tell you something. I was in the music business. Let me just make this very clear. Everybody's such a sad sack. I never earned a dime singing. Not one. Not 1 cent. I spent my whole life paying off the IRS and that's a whole other story to go into. But welcome to the club. It's called America. It's not a paradise. It didn't promise you anything. You were duped, just like me, just like my family, just like everybody else. All we can do now is try to set this rate right. There's no utopia.
And that's what I'm trying to say is that how they structure.
Then you need to go and lobby the people. But I'm telling you, Joe Biden and every single in Congress bends over for banks. Otherwise, Jamie Dimon would be somewhere enjoying his life. That's
but the point I was trying to make was that the people who advocated for this forgiveness program and people who wanted to, like the politicians that were for it, the students who are for it, the thing that they should have advocated for is for them to restructure how
they would never do that.
Yeah, but they would never
know what it is.
But Jill, that would have nothing to do with the banks because I'm talking about the federal part of the government where the federal loans come from. Those are the ones that they're forgiving. They have to restructure how they do.
If they forgive you guys' loans, they need to forgive mine.
No, ladies, we're gonna move on. This is an ongoing thing, and I love how both you two are going back and forth respectfully. And folks, if you're just watching this for the first time, they do love each other, by the way. Just to realize, but just to catch up a little bit. And Lala's staying so quiet, but just to go back to a different angle. just back to the hurricane bit. Brian says, I live in Nova Scotia, and we got hit by Fiona last week. He also added, and I'm Gen X, and my parents had their mortgage paid off and a pension when they were my age, 50.
Right. We don't get pensions anymore. That's one of the sad things, too, is that pensions are non-existent.
And then Black Beauty saying,
everybody's accepting the status quo here.
Right. And Aisha saying, Black Beauty saying, Aisha, could you educate me on how ONG? I don't know. And then Aisha, Could you educate us on how Congress fits into the student loan structure?
Because Congress holds the power of the purse. And remember, this is about financial, this is a financial thing, and this is about money owed to the federal government and how the federal government lends money. One of the things that they did after 2010, when they stopped with the felt part of it, was that they opened up the plus loan. I forget what the PLUS stands for, but they opened that up to students, which has no upper limit. At least when I was going to school, there was a limit that you could take out, a lifetime limit. There is no lifetime limit now. And because of that, people borrow exorbitant amounts. That is something that Congress could put back on the books. Hey, there's a lifetime limit of this amount. You can't go over this amount because it is impossible to pay back. And so Congress really, they can do that, but they can also restructure how the different types of payment plans, because they're absolutely ridiculous. Where it's like, oh, you can have the balloon payment thing. Congress can change all that. The student loan payment part of it for the government doesn't have to act like the banks. They can actually change all of that, but they're not. And people aren't pushing them to do it. Also, they don't have the numbers right now. After this election, they might, but I promise you that they won't do the restructuring of that part of it, which to me is the most important part of it. Because I don't think, there are people who don't want to pay them back, but there are people who are fine paying them back, but just would like, hey, can we lower the payment per month so that I can have some breathing room here and not have to decide, am I going to pay my student loans or am I going to pay my light bill? And one of the other parts too is that they can also cap the interest. They can really cap the interest, because the majority of what people pay back in student loans isn't the principal amount, it's the interest.
But
the
it's
interest
on everybody.
That's
my whole thing.
It's ridiculous. But when it gets, and here's the other part, just this one point. The other part that they really need to deal with is the selling of the loans, because here's why I'm still paying loans back that I took out almost 30 years ago, because you pay them, you start paying when they sell it. When they sell the loan, guess what? You're starting over again from the very beginning of your original balance. So it feels like you're never going to get off that
and
cycle.
You won't.
Which is just ridiculous. It's like,
here's the
how
thing,
many thousands
Aisha.
of dollars did you pay?
Aisha, it's never
okay.
going
Last comment, Jill, because we got a lot more to get to.
It's never going to change as long as we have what we have, because if they do that for you guys, it will set a precedence. And everybody will get waived, because the way you're talking with the welcome to the club, we all have had those kind of loans that have moved into predatory lenders. That is how those guys with the hedge funds are going around buying all these houses right now and buying up property across the United States.
When the federal government is I think it's different. I understand when you take out a private loan for a bank and they're predatory and you deal with this.
No, the bank is not predatory. When
the government is doing the same thing.
The bank is not predatory until it sells it to the hedge fund and their little banks, because they'll have things like for payday loans. They have people, you can take out $2,500, $2,600 cap, right? But what they do is they'll send things to people and no, the cap is $2,599. But there's not a place you can go in the state of California and not have to pay to get that. If you're really in dire straits, it starts at $2,600. So you are therefore at the interest rate of whatever the interest rate is right now. And it goes and it goes. And it's the worst kind of loan. People never get out of that. It's brutal. If you don't have that money in the next time to turn around and pay it, you are screwed. And you're right. It should be changed. But we are not voting for the right people on this topic, and we need to find them. And if you can't find them, then you need to run on that and try to be that person.
Okay, we're done.
And on that, I agree. And I'll just give you like a little example. there was a student loan that I had that in 1999 paid it off. Every year they kept selling the paid off loan, and I would get a bill for the full amount that I'd already paid off. I had to go back and forth with that for 10 years. And that is the kind of thing that requires legislation. They should not have been able to do that, period.
It's well, like it also keeps you from working in finance because
I'm going to push this because you two, we're going to be here for 5 hours. Right. And not everyone's going to be here for 5 hours. So we're done. All right. So few things, just catching up. For people who have not, just a definition, a direct plus loan. A direct plus loans are federal loans that graduate or professional degree students or parents of dependent undergraduate students can use to help pay for their education expenses. Direct plus loans have a fixed interest rate and are not subsidized, which means that interest accrues while the student is enrolled in school. You'll be charged a fee to process a direct plus loan called an origination fee. An origination fee is deducted from the loan disbursement before you or the school receives the funds. A credit check is performed on applicants to qualify for a direct plus loan. So I just wanted to add that context. And now some other things. Brian, thank you for coming in for the first time, and especially a fellow Canuck from Canada. Brian says the education system is a grift. With technology now, I should be able to go to school for the same price as a Netflix subscription.
I agree.
Tila says, Brian Delaney, well, Netflix is raising their prices too, but yeah, I agree. And then he says, the education business are a bunch of golden ticket holders.
They are. And unfortunately, what happens is that we have a situation where this is where boomers are a problem when they start to see that the schools that they graduated from have now become more elite and difficult to get into and has a little more prestige. Then that's what that turned into, and it wasn't very nice.
And it'd be nice. It would be different, I think, if the money was not going directly into endowments, but to faculty salaries.
That's a whole other conversation there. Okay. So, as I said, Jill and Aisha love each other, for people who may not think that by witnessing or watching this. So, and Tila saying, great discourse between Aisha and Jill, important to see we women engage like this and with love between them. Almighty is baby, says Tila, I completely agree. And Tila says, Almighty baby, yes, this is how we level up our world views. So compliments to Aisha and Jill.
Understand our frustration's not against each other. It's with this whole system of how all of it and how people keep getting treated terribly.
Agreed. Let's move on to our next conversation piece. Another one of Aisha and Jill's favorites and Lala, Ginni Thomas.
Every time I see her, I want to gag.
Some holy water.
This woman just, I mean, it's like the nails down the chop. You know, why is this woman getting this much attention? I mean,
she and Clarence Thomas are what each other deserve.
Exactly. I can't explain it any better than that. That is so true. And the people out here are saying like, well, they have discord and blah. No. This is a strong power couple. Okay. You can forget about anybody thinking that they're not laying in bed and before they go to their separate rooms, talking about, what just happened and how they're going to help. Clarence Thomas ain't innocent, and neither is she. And this is the same whitewash they're pulling with Trump and getting away from. They all play from the same damn playbook. I am sick of it. When are people going to wake up?
How are you married to someone as long as they've been married and you not talk about things that you're involved in? Especially if it's something that they might have to bail you out of jail for.
Listen, I come home and talk to my husband. Oh, babe, I saw a feather on the street today. You don't think that woman is not laying up there with him talking about everything that's going on behind closed doors? There are no closed doors between them.
I think she's laying up in bed. I think she's laying up in bed, but with Ali Alexander. and Clarence walks in and asks them if they want a Coke. You know, because she'd been thick as thieves with those people, Mark Meadows, Ali Alexander. It was like, yo, this, she thinks she was in like some like spy movie or something, like the Umbrellas of Cherbourg or something. I'm like, oh my Lord,
you know, the proof is in the pudding, though. It's like, remember, on that one issue, only Clarence Thomas was the dissenter.
Yes.
Okay, so you mean to tell me that you had no part,
none,
in any of that?
No, Aisha, no, not one thing. I didn't say a word.
I mean, that is just so suspicious. And you know what? I bet you that her involvement is even deeper.
Oh, I know
it. Than what we see on the surface. But I also bet that her involvement in remember that comment Clarence Thomas made after the Dodd decision, after the overturn of Roe, and how he wants to go after all these things. Yes. You can't tell me that she didn't hand him a list, because remember, she's the reason he got there in the first place.
Is her lack of fertility why, or her anger about that or something, is that why she's going after Roe and all of this stuff? What is that about? Because they never had kids.
No, they didn't.
Okay,
no, so he has a child by somebody else.
Just to interject for a moment, and Brian, who's from Canada, who is Ginni Thomas?
Oof. She is the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, and yeah, that's all.
Yeah,
that's all.
And she's with the Federalist Society, and Daughters of the American Revolution, I believe. Yes. I could be wrong, but so when Clarence Thomas had that whole thing with Anita Hill, and was sexually harassing her, I just think that Ginni hasn't, I think they have a really messed up marriage problem, most likely. I think it's dark. They just have a really, they have a bad vibe.
It's all convenience. You could tell that. I mean, but
because didn't he leave his other wife for her?
Even the royalty, don't forget about that, y'all. You could be first cousins. All right.
I know. It's so true.
So you'll like this. I'm sure you ladies will like this. Brian says, I looked her up and I regretted it.
Oh my God, I know. She's just a very angry woman. She was upset when, I guess it was like 20 years later, she sent an email to Anita Hill demanding an apology, which that means, man, it really was messing with her 20 years later, I was like, wow. So
probably sitting there every night seething.
Yeah, I think that her marriage, I think it is one of convenience. I don't feel anything that they, and they may very well not talk. No, I'm sure they talk to each other. Is. I think she tells him what to do. I think he is a puppet, and she has never let him live down the humiliation of that. Because I also saw Anita on TV the other day. She was banging. Body looks great. Hair looks fantastic. Beautiful woman. With this silvery, she's just, oh my God. Yes. And then you go and look at Ginni, and I'm trying not to say money. I'm trying not to say, because she looks like she's got a thyroid problem too. So I ain't trying to look like Ginni later. So y'all bear with me. I'm trying to keep it nice because like I
said, if it wasn't for money, her family's money and influence, she'd be a Walmart shopper.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know how she ended up with him anyway. He really must have been working it. I don't see it. I don't know how.
I think it has to do with control. I think it's a control factor for her.
Hey, she got him on that Supreme Court, didn't she?
Right. Yes, she did. Remember, because she was with the Federalist Society.
Yes, she did.
They were the ones who introduced him. Yeah, she was one of the people who she introduced him to a lot of people that helped to get him the nomination. Yeah, because she also had a lot of political connections before they got married as well. Right. And so,
totally,
you have to wonder. You see what his draw to her was. I'm still trying to figure out what her draw to him was.
Well, look, it's an investment. I've seen it all. I've seen it over and over. Like, there are men of power, for whatever reason, they want more power. Maybe they're raising themselves out. I don't know, bootstrap thing, whatever. But at some point, they also see themselves using that person to get to the status. He wanted that. So therefore, that's what she offered to him.
I think
they've got some backwood. Nope.
Why was she attracted to him?
But I think she is the head of the ceremony when they all wear ram's heads and gowns and blood and drink it. I think she's the one that comes up with the concoction for the drink in their rituals.
And you know what? You know what makes her even more not terrible but dangerous is the fact that she is so well connected to all these things and she has the kind of influence that can put people on the Supreme Court, which means she can also put people in the presidency, in governorships, and that is dangerous. Who wants a country led by people chosen by Ginni Thomas?
Because she must get things on people. She must do some dirty stuff.
Of course,
you say that about Trump. All of them do. All those people who are, they're all in the same vein.
But she has something to do with Leonard Leo, the one from the Opus Dei, who is the one selecting, has chosen 6 people already on the court from the Catholic Opus Dei Knights of Malta. So she somewhere, if we did a little bit of digging, we'd find Ginni's tied into something very dark.
Yes.
And I know that my guy, my senator, Adam Schiff, or my congressman, he didn't buy a damn thing she said the other day at the J6 committee. Not a damn thing.
I saw that. He's just like,
he's such an attorney, right? He was like,
and Jamie Raskin was the other one that said, that basically said he thought she lied.
All right, so just to catch
she was
up,
telling half truth.
Black Beauty said to Brian's comments, LOL, Brian, and Brian also says, LOL, Rams heads.
Something going on there. I can't figure it out.
She's like the leader of the
because she's not a looker. She's not a looker. There's something that Ginni's got.
They don't
care. Because ain't nobody trying to sleep with her, but they want
sometimes for some men, it doesn't take a whole lot.
That's true. That's true. But she offers something.
Trust, and I think the thing that makes me laugh is how she interacts with Black women because of her husband. And I'm kind of like, don't worry, none of us want him. You did us a favor.
Oh, shame. All right, let's move on.
That's true.
All right, continuing on in the world of politics in America. Judge again sides with 45 in Mar-a-Lago.
I just wish.
Oh my God! I just wish.
Guys, I'm going to start again. I told you guys this the first time we talked about this judge from Columbia, who was originally. There's something about her. Never did. I said, how did her mother afford a school that she went to when she came from? I'm pobrecita, whatever. How was her mom paying for a $35,000 a year school? And who is she? Because she is basically committing harikari for him, honey.
And just to be clear for everybody watching, what she said was
Federalist
that Donald
Society
Trump does not have to prove that the FBI planted things in like he's been saying, planted things in Mar-a-Lago. After he said all that after the special master that Trump requested, and that his attorneys picked, said that he did. If he's going to make those claims, and what's so bad is that I saw a clip of Sean Hannity interviewing Donald Trump, trying to help him out on this question.
Yes, I saw that.
Donald Trump was just like, well, they did it. I just know that they did. And he's like, but you do have the proof, right? And he just couldn't answer it because there is no proof. There was no planting of evidence. Donald Trump went from they planted evidence to they took my things. It's like the man can't get it right. And this judge is doing nothing but helping him.
He's trying to get whatever can work that day. But we got to really, have you guys seen the other cases she's been put on? 2 Deutsche Bank cases. Yeah. And somebody was like, well,
which have to do with his loan.
What? I got to look that up.
And people are like, it's about bankruptcies and things like that. But anytime you see Deutsche Bank and it's something to really consider. Like, oh, really? Like, She got those 2 cases. The last judge that had a Deutsche Bank case in New York, her poor child was killed at the front door, murdered. They were trying to kill her, and her husband was maimed. So, you know, God rest that family, bless them. But I mean, who wants to really? Are you kidding me?
Put it this way, anyone who got a negative judgment from her.
Okay, you want to talk about loans?
Sewer.
You want to talk about loans? If I had loans like Trump, these would have been at my door knocking it down. What the heck? This man owes money. Ain't nobody ever had a loan like that. Them buildings ain't that precious. They're not actually. They're really not.
They're actually very gaudy
and they're poorly made. Sorry. Poorly made.
If you've ever been inside Trump Tower,
I know.
I've only walked past it and looked in the window.
It's too 1980s for me. It hasn't even been. Yeah, it's awful.
All that gold and LeMay. It's
awful. It's terrible. But she is definitely a savage, and she there's something wrong with her. She should be impeached. I believe this is everything she's doing is clearly wrong. So
she's got higher aspirations than where she is. Yes. She's trying to get to the Supreme Court, and she's hoping that
if he'll put her there,
he will appoint her.
That's she's like, I did this for you. You're going to do this for me. But the queerest thing is, where did she come from? Mm-hmm. This poor woman who left Cuba to then her poor mom, single mom, then went to Colombia where she had her, and then they came here. What the in the
you gotta wonder who her mother was working for, because wasn't her mother like a maid or something?
Yeah.
And
I don't think her mom was a maid at all. Her mom sounds like she was intelligence.
Well, I'm
that sounds like that mom was intelligence.
Or maybe
working as a maid.
Maybe her mom worked for somebody and was their concubine.
That's what I'm.
Look, but if you don't pay my daughter, if you don't take care of my daughter, I'm going to out you. She's got blackmail on somebody.
Well, she has something, because first of all, why is she even in the Federalist Society?
Right.
That's, not to get kind of like,
Well, it seems like everybody in there is strange. I mean, every person we've mentioned tonight is weird. I mean,
and all of them are members of the Federalist Society.
Yeah.
DeSantis, Ginni Thomas, all of them. Yeah.
Meghan McCain. Yeah. Her husband.
All right. Let's move on. This one came up while we were on a little bit of a sabbatical. Boston Celtics suspend coach Ime Udoka for the 2023 season. Lala, you look to the side. Why?
Oh, anything like this just pisses me off. Like, the point is, why would you want to? I'm coming from a different angle. This cheating thing, that's another power thing. And it always comes out, and someone's always heard. It's always gone on. You know that it has in every industry. I have a problem with how they're outing him kind of in a way, but then again, I'm for it too, because it's like it's right down in the middle. You should be punished for what you've done. It should not have been kept a secret, but you know that it's been done, and it's still being done. He's not the only one.
Yeah. No. The rules were very clear, like in the contract about the fraternization and all that kind of stuff. Very clear. And I'm sorry for when it comes to anyone, the only person I really feel bad for in all this is Nia Long, who is dating him.
If you're engaged for past 5 years, you're not going to get married.
No. It
never happened. It's too long.
The only issue I have is
if you're living with anybody, I would live with somebody 10 years. It was not going to go anywhere past that.
Yeah. The only issue I have with this is how the media covered it.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Guess what? You covered it the way you should have.
I think that was Black Twitter.
Can we get this same energy for Brett Favre for stealing
that was Black money? Twitter did that. They covered it. And I hate Black Twitter.
No,
because it's so based.
No, but I was looking at just the general, like how even people that I know in the media covered it. Either they covered this story and they didn't really, they didn't do the kind of justice that I think media people should be done. How they approached this story was fine. It was correct. Now, can we do this with all these other things the same way? It's like you had the courage to do that with this one. what is the cowardice behind the whole Brett Favre thing and how you cover that? Why did you not go after that with this thing?
I think
because they're both bad.
I think they were, but they're different. I think they're two different components. We can't always do things with the same measuring spoon. You know, first of all, Black Twitter added into it and went on and on about Nia Long, and they really reduced the whole thing to something really gross. I mean, honestly, that's a private relationship. He's the one who stepped out. It should have just been, you know, Americans love to see people slipping and sliding and falling off the mark. It really only needed to be, you know, he's suspended. He broke a morality clause. You have most people don't even know. Most companies you work with, there's a morality clause in everything you sign. It's always there. And you mess it up and you're done. So for me, it was really seeing it on Black Twitter and men like saying things like, I'll take Nia. And that, as if that was to make it better, that even became creepier and more misogynistic. It was kind of gross that, you know, she was then just thrown around like a piece of meat, and everybody's saying, well, I think she's beautiful, whatever. It just got really it was, I think, really bad.
And see, I didn't see that part because I was staying off social media those few days. I was reading it in like USA Today.
No, it's like men come along to say I would do, and they say the most ugly, nasty things, and the whole thing was like, oh my God. It was like, how could this happen? If anything, she was probably upset because the exposure that it brought on her. But we have a whole group of people in America and in a Black community that's too stupid to realize you're only making it worse. You're throwing her on the fire with this dude. And it's wrong because they were, you know, constantly like the over sexualization. And it really, we go to, I don't like Black Twitter. I'm off of Twitter actually at the moment because of stuff like that. It's just too much because I start to go, I would never even hang out with people who enjoy this.
But see, I saw how they covered it, and it was spot on. It was appropriate for the offense. They're like, look, what he did was wrong. Here is the clause, what the clause says, and he was suspended immediately. I mean,
then they showed the other woman, and then that got even uglier.
I didn't even see that part. I was just looking at how they were reporting, and I'm like, you know, it's like this.
It became a real war about genitals and skin color. Then it just morphed into really bad stuff that at the end of it, I wasn't even clear what he did anymore.
But see, the media didn't cover that part.
They shouldn't have had to, because that was actually happening. Media took it virally. Maybe TMZ.
Because my concern was really just how journalism. I'm like, gosh, I
saw a report that was on MSNBC. He was removed because he broke a rule that you can't fraternize with somebody else.
Yeah.
And a story. It was like a minute long. And I thought that was fine. But then what the other stuff, and then the woman's picture, and then what was going to happen to her because people were asking, and then everybody has to pile on. It was a big pile on is what I would say.
So Tila,
you know the funny thing too is like, this is not uncommon,
right?
Among athletic coaches.
I say it.
This happens all the
among
time.
Athletes,
and it's still happening. It's happening right now as we speak. It's just a common knowledge. I mean,
the sad part too is that wasn't he like a supervisor over her, which also made the authority issue a problem.
I don't even know who he is. So for me, I didn't know until that dehumanization.
So Chila is saying, Nia should not be trending around this. Leave her out of this. And
Chila
also says,
because they have a child or something.
Yeah. Yes, they do. Yes.
Yeah, I watched basketball, so I knew who he was personally.
But here's the thing: people break up. People have affairs, and they have bad things in the relationship. But what we kind of end up doing to people is we make it impossible for them to heal. And we shouldn't, it was the same with Adam Levine and his thing, whatever he was going through with his thing. We make it really difficult for people to heal because deep down, most people who comment on this at this point negatively are miserable.
Yeah.
Misery loves company. And I've seen it with the Harry and Meghan thing. I've seen the most gross things that have gone on, and it's kind of turned me off. That's why I took a break from Twitter and Instagram.
I didn't take a break because I didn't want to talk to people.
All right, so let's move on here. Tila says strange weirdness on Twitter. And
I actually wanted to say there's a guy, Steve, he has a book coming out. I can't. Anyway, he was on some morning show today, but one thing he has actually said is that we are at a time now where all of the social media platforms should actually be demanding real names and real authentication of who is on the computer, like who has this account. We're at that point. We don't need anymore. And so when he proposed it, people were going, well, what would happen? I mean, I would get fired if my boss knew I had a political. Then don't say it, because this is why people forget things like if your boss is going to fire you based upon seeing your activity, they're not supposed to. But then the laws would start to shift a little bit, that if you are a Republican or a Democrat, you would be essentially a little bit protected with the reveal, as opposed to, going in and cutting people all the way down to the quick. I actually am if you lobby for your loans, I want to lobby that everybody has to have their real names online. It's just, we're beyond that point.
Here's the other thing is that
if I have to,
community standards are useless because they don't enforce them. And they enforce them in the wrong ways, which is absurd to me. It's like there was one time when Jill got suspended for using a word that it was like it was harmless, right? And they suspended her for however many hours or whatever. But then you see people, I'll pop up and I'll be reading a thread. I don't always respond to everything, but I'll read a thread and I'll be like, see someone and just random racist junk, right? Yeah. And it's like, wait, you didn't catch on to that? How did
it also takes them a long time. You're right, because in my downtime, I found myself just going and finding people that if they said something really to me, I'd wait. I kept a little notebook, like go to so-and-so's page on this day and just find something on their thing and report it. And I started reporting people's whole accounts because I was getting very vindictive. Like, I'm going to roll back up on her in about a month and I'm going to get her account suspended. And I started doing that. I was like, okay, Jill, you're taking this too seriously. You got to chill.
Yeah. It's like, people misinterpret the First Amendment and the freedom of speech. You have freedom of speech, but not freedom of consequence. And that freedom of speech really only applies, technically, if all these purists want to go and talk, constitutional purists, it applies to the media and it applies to your freedom to speak and say what you want to without your government punishing you or any kind of governmental retribution.
Your job
mean that you're free of consequences when you say in other platforms. And so, for example, Twitter is not publicly traded yet.
No.
That's what this whole thing about with Elon Musk too is going on. Twitter's not publicly traded, and so because it's not, they really can buckle down on what people can and can't say on their platform. Think about it. One of the reasons Donald Trump went and created Live Social is so that he could say what he wanted to say and how he wanted to say it, be as hateful as he wanted to be without anyone telling him, no, you can't say that. And the same thing is true with Facebook before Facebook was publicly traded, because this was going on before he took it public, right?
Totally.
All this stuff, the misinformation, all of that. Zuckerberg could have shut it down. And this whole thing about our government and our politicians being scary, we don't want to trample on the First Amendment. Well, apply that.
They're literally ridiculous. I don't even think most of them even know
want you to do with the Second Amendment. Apply the First Amendment literally.
Right. Ay.
All right, let's move onward. Aisha mentioned a bit, but the whole issue of Brett Favre's charitable foundation funneled funds to the University of Southern Mississippi athletics.
You know what? It's not just that, the brazenness of it. It's the cruelty that makes me sick. Your charitable foundation is to benefit people who are without, and that you're raising money on behalf of these people, and then you're giving it to this university that honestly has its own endowment, right? They don't need the money. But even behind that, this is just one more example of his callousness, because the first one was when they released those text messages about the money from the welfare going to him, and him saying, "Oh, you're sure nobody's going to find this out?" It's like it is all coming out, and the question is, who's going to be held accountable? Because he's not going to be held accountable.
No, this is another smoke and mirror. Like always, they like to hold somebody up and shake them in the wind and say, "See what we got, see what we got." And then your attention is on something else because there's another 1,000 fires behind you. This won't be in the news in the next couple of weeks because they're going to bury it, and no one is going to get punished for it.
And you all know how I feel about Mississippi. Mississippi is like one of the worst places in this country. It is the poorest. It's one of the. It is, if I'm not mistaken, it is the poorest.
It's pretty bad, but I'm just trying to figure out what kind of a volleyball player is his daughter. I mean,
she can't be that good if her dad has to keep giving money to keep her on the team, right?
Lord have mercy. I was like, what volleyball? You know, I mean, it's volleyball in Mississippi too. Now, you know, San Diego State, UCLA, USC. I could see the volleyball teams. It's so Mississippi needed a volleyball court. When you think about that, it's just like
when you think about Mississippi, you really think about volleyball, don't you?
Always, every time. You know,
here's what I want to know.
There's some more either, and then maybe they need to dig up and see what's buried underneath the court because something urgent was pressed. Something was going on. And he clearly was taking money for himself too.
Yes.
I want to know what state his charitable foundation
it's called Brett Favre.
I want to know what state his charitable foundation is registered
ruined
in.
Something about Mary Firmino.
Yeah.
I will never be able to watch it because he's in it, remember?
Well, clearly he's not in New York City because Tish James would have heard this news and would have had another investigation going.
They all split that money, honey. They all did. They all did.
Yeah.
The governor too.
They should take his 501c3 away.
Who they say that governor was Emmett Till's Carolyn Bryant, her husband. I don't know if this is 100% true, but I have heard that Carolyn Bryant, her husband who hung Emmett Till, her husband, that is the governor's nephew, that his sister.
I'm not mistaken, I believe I've read that already.
Yeah, his sister.
And you're going to be hard pressed to see people in Mississippi her age and older who weren't somewhere around that.
Yeah, so he's the nephew of, her dead husband and her.
So Tila's saying LOL, and also Black Beauty saying LMBO. All right, we've come to our last conversation piece of the night. European Union suspects Russian sabotage in Nord Stream gas line explosion. Jill?
Well, so let me just get my little notes on this together because it's quite interesting. So you know that, so the other day you might have heard or you might have seen that in Denmark, they had a big grand opening for the Baltic pipeline was opened, right? And that was finished like a month ahead of time. And, so that's going to supply gas going to Poland, from Norway to Poland and any other countries they've said now that they that might need help with things, right? Plus also we had today, there was a big to-do with Greece and Bulgaria opened up their gas pipeline so that they, you know, and then the head of Greece, she's like, oh, thank God we feel free. We're not tied to Putin as they all were. So in the middle of what preceded all of these little celebrations was that Putin basically the other day, you know, there was a leak basically in one of the pipelines. And it was the Nord Stream one, which if you think about it, I think it was a little bit during COVID, they spoke about it or at the end of it. And so basically methane was leaking, and methane is like fires and all this kind of shit was leaking. They said it's going to be one of the biggest natural, like a disaster now. Mm-hmm. It's killed so much marine life there. The pipe you can't use it. They just built it like, you know, 2 years ago or a year, but there was always a little bit of hesitancy with it being used with Germany because Russia was providing it with Germany. And we know how Putin was acting like such a bitch with Germany and wanted them to all freeze to death during this winter. But they all seem to get a hookup somewhere else. So I'm sorry about, you know, I feel so bad about the marine life and the animals, and I think it's terrible. But then those crazy QAnon people, those kookadoos, are running around saying that America destroyed it. And then, of course, the other side is saying that Putin destroyed it. Now, that may very well be the case at this point. But seriously, do we care?
You know, the thing about
I only care about the poor animals. I'm happy everybody else seems to have had a solution. But do we really want to see that ass, you know, putt go around and make everybody like suffer? I mean, as it was, he can't even get 300,000 of his people together for his war. They all took off. And there's going to be more catching planes out of there too. And there are tons of loaded up into Finland. So my biggest thing, though, about all of this, the reason I wanted to talk about it tonight is because it shows the two different things that happened coming off of it with the Danes and also with Bulgaria and how they all just went like this. So that's going to make somebody upset, particularly since his army, he was celebrating a couple of days ago that he got 4 new annexed territories that are now Russia, that he made people vote with a gun to their heads. Particularly since the town of Lyman was basically taken back by Ukraine again today, I think, or last night. So, you know, we got some issues. I personally think he's going to do something really bad in retaliation, because I think he's setting it up that way by comparing us with Nagasaki and Hiroshima. We talked about this a little bit earlier. And I think that when we look at what's going down, don't forget Sweden. I think he had a hand in that election because around the 14th, you know, it's a little more right now, right winger went in. And that kind of affects NATO situation. Either they won't want Ukraine to go in. So there's some really interesting things happening. We had Italy with Georgia, Meloni, the PM. We have Serbia acting a fool again somehow, or the Bosnia, Serbia, Croatia. It's been a little rocky with a lot of deniers going on. There's some moving pieces happening. And in 15 days, China is meeting, their parliament is meeting. So we have some things we just need to keep our eyes on very closely.
You know, the thing about this particular issue that caught me when I was reading it was that the amount of methane it leaked was like 20 years worth at one time.
Right.
And if you know anything about methane and how it affects climate, you can't get rid of it once it's released in the air. All you can do is reduce the amount of methane that you use in the future. And so the damage is done. It's like the cleanup for that. It's like, where do you even start? Because remember, methane is a gas and it gets into the air.
And we can't get into that space. It's over the Baltic Sea.
It also travels, though. Remember, Some of that is going to travel over this way.
And I feel he did that because we know that. And also remember, with the 300 or 400,000 men that they detected flying into Turkey and all the people who've been leaving, you know how many jobs are available right now? People who just got up and basically there's a lot of empty spaces somewhere in that country. And there's going to be more with people just going, that's it, bye, gotta go. So there's a lot of things they can't meet the demand on either. And who knows? Who knows what it is? But you're right, Aisha, that could be the thing, but I don't know.
I mean, when you think about it, it's kind of like if Putin is behind it, you realize that this is an experiment because he's looking at chemical warfare.
I think he did it.
But a different kind of chemical warfare, not the kind of bombs and things, but things that could kill people over a longer period of time, more people, or afflict more people. I mean, one of the reasons that you have people who are in the climate sphere, like let's reduce the number of cows, is because cows release methane gas when it destroys the climate. When it just goes and hangs in the air, and there's no way to clear it. And so, you know, if his idea is to use methane, that is scary because it's not going to have the kind of effect.
It's like
an atom bomb would, which would just take everybody out at one time. This is something that's going to
deform your children when you have babies. There's going to be, you're going to see the result of that. And he did that, and he's so up that he would do that. And I don't know why. I mean, clearly, this whole thing of playing nice with somebody who doesn't want to play nice. If we're going to act like children, I remember what I did to people who did that to me. It wasn't playing nice. You put me over one time, we're done. And the whole thing is they need to like take care of that. And one thing is, please get rid of his friends. They don't need, you know, they're the, you know, that get rid, separate, isolate that. But apparently, I mean, I'm not in the army and I don't know what the is going on, but you know, you don't play with people who keep trying to tell you what they're going to do because they will do something. And he did it clearly.
Actually a good time to go after him when his army is weakened by the people leaving because of the draft. Now is a really good time. He doesn't have the kind of protection that he had a year ago.
Then he put him out there sick, you know, and I don't often, you guys know me, I haven't often felt very sad for that country, but I do feel badly for the people that are just like trying to live their lives. And it's like, you know, they were okay with the war being the war. But what's interesting is that they're not tweeting about it or talking about it, even the ones that are like out of the country now, because they say that, oh, they're so afraid of what's going to happen to their family members. Well, the reality is something's going to happen to them anyway. You know, if you say that your husband, your son, your granddad, everybody left, don't think that he won't, you know, take the women and do something if he needs to, because that's who he is.
Okay. So just some final comments here. Cinema saying, isn't Putin ill with cancer?
I think he's been
faking.
She
also says China is a most to watch, is a watch. Yes. And then Wigmania says, Canela, Putin's not ill with anything.
I agree.
Cinnamon says, yeah, just mental illness. And then Brian says, the USA wouldn't risk getting caught creating a natural disaster like this. Not worth the risk. This was obviously Russia. Yeah. Russia, they are desperate.
Yeah, I disagree with Brian on one thing. If it was the last administration, they wouldn't care.
Yeah, but you've got to remember he gave our whole everything to them. Trump did, and for that. It makes me sick that anybody would still stand by him, even with the benefit of the doubt of saying, yo, this had classified information and he clearly has given it away to Russia. And they know many, many things. And he has been the reason that many of our CIA people who probably were in great positions to take care of this situation, he got a lot of them killed. So there's a real reason why we're all going, our CIA, man. Because Donald Trump turned over their names, and from what we know, he got a lot of them killed.
And the other part of that too is that all this information that he has. Remember, he had information on heads of government in different countries. It makes you wonder about that meeting that he had with Putin, that closed door one where they didn't even transcribe anything. I think that he pulled out those documents by like, oh, look what I got, right? And because it's like, now that he has these things, right? You have to wonder where he was taking them.
He's a Russian asset. He always has.
He was showing them to. And it was, and that was his one of his last conversations with Putin was, hey, I got all these things. If you can help me win again, they're yours.
Yeah. Only he didn't have to really show him, Aisha, all the documents. Anybody who walked in the room could have just read it.
This is true. And look, I bet you even the housekeepers knew all this stuff.
Oh, they're writing books right now so they can get there.
I know, right? Everybody.
Like Maggie Haberman, who keeps revealing everything that she knows. It's bad about that administration now.
I know, right?
In what, her third book about it?
Wow. All right, we done. Case closed. Another epic conversation is done on City Things with Aisha and Jill. And I'd like to say thank you as always, ladies, for taking the time to hang out with the family here. And as always, we'd like to have each of you share your contact information. So first up, La.
You can find me on all platforms under Realty Goddess. And please continue to send your prayers and support to those down here in Florida. It's going to be a long haul.
Jill Jones.
Jill D. Jones at Twitter and Jill Jones Music. It may take me some minute to get back to everybody, but yeah, I'm just taking a minute, All
right. Aisha K. Staggers.
Aisha Staggers at Twitter. Although I'm also like Jill, I'm actually working on something, writing something, so really taking that my time.
All right, scratch. All right, and myself, if you want to get in touch with me, you can touch base with me at my website, the drvibeshow, email dr@the drvibeshow.com, YouTube and Facebook, The Dr. Vibe Show, Twitter at drvibeshow, and Instagram at the drvibeshow. Like to say thank you for everybody who came in and checked it out tonight. Tila says, great show. Cinnamon says, good night, lovely program, super energetic. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's good stuff. So as I take this down and off the screen, so you can catch State of Things with Aisha and Jill live on Saturdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on the Dr. Vibe Show YouTube and Facebook page. You can watch replays of this on the Dr. Vibe Show YouTube and Facebook and the Dr. Vibe Show website, the drvibeshow.com. And as always, I like to close out with this. Live your life. Oh, actually, before I close out, if you would like to promote your business or service on our show, please feel free to contact me at dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Now we're ready to close out, and this is how we close out. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourselves grace, and we'll catch you next week, all things being good. And I challenge one of our family to come on one of these conversations with us. Would love to see it. God bless. Peace to all. Keep the faith and walk good.